Hey, Ron Douglas here. How you guys doing? I just wanted to go live and give some words of encouragement in these difficult times. It's been a rough April. It's only been 4 days in. It's been a rough April so far for a lot of people. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. Uh, there's a lot of worry about the current policies that our government has towards the global economy and the actions it's taking with its tariffs. Some I understand, some I don't really understand. Like we'll talk about some of that stuff, and I want to give you guys some tips and some financial advice. Well, not advice, but things that have worked for me with my own personal finances and just over the years navigating this type of environment. I've been in business since 2001. I've seen big recessions, I've seen little recessions, I've seen recessions that weren't really recessions, that is, just bad news and kind of came and went. I've seen uh, recessions that weren't called recessions, right? I've seen like a couple years ago. I'm pretty sure we were in one. We had the two consecutive quarters of negative growth, and they just kind of rewrote the rules on that. So, and then I seen that recover. So, the good thing about a recession, and I think we're probably headed towards one, um, based on a lot of things. I'll talk about that in a second. But the good thing about it is there's no less money out there in the world. It's just that people aren't spending it, right? It's a crisis of confidence where people are just like, let me hold on to my money, not spend it, so the money doesn't circulate, the way it should, because people are uncertain about tomorrow, so they're gonna hold on to their money and not spend it, so it doesn't cycle through the economy. People just save and wait to see what happens, and that creates a lot of things happening. Companies don't get the revenue that they're supposed to get, and they end up laying people off. And then people are laid off, and they don't have money to feed their families and whatnot, and it creates a tough environment. So the Federal Reserve has two mandates, right? The mandates are to keep inflation under control and to try to ensure that unemployment doesn't go out of control either. Try to ensure that maximum employment, minimum inflation, right? It's their two mandates. But inflation is takes precedence over the unemployment part of it. So um, eventually they're going to have to cut rates and try to stimulate the economy. But hopefully, you know, with all these tariffs that have been issued that are starting soon, hopefully we can get some resolution on that, come to some agreement with other countries. Instead of just taking this sledgehammer approach and just slapping it on everybody like we did, hopefully they come to the table. Best case is it's a hardcore negotiating tactic to get countries to come to the table, and it doesn't actually have to take effect, with certain countries. And I won't really get into all that. It's just a ridiculous thing. I mean, the expectation, like, what is the goal of it? The goal of it, right? They stated that they want to bring more jobs back to the United States. But what kind of jobs are we talking about? Do we really want manufacturing, like sweatshop type jobs, like low income jobs? Like, we don't, Americans, it costs too much to pay Americans to do these jobs. And you can't force businesses to pay more for labor when they can get the same labor done, skilled labor, that they're accustomed to in other countries, right? So it's a tough thing, especially with AI and robotics, right? It's a lot of those jobs are going to be replaced anyway. So why are we even trying to bring them back? That doesn't make sense to me. But maybe there's a better plan that something else they have in mind that I'm not thinking of. I have a financial background. I was a uh, economics major. I'm a chartered financial analyst. I've worked on Wall Street. I've done a lot of things financially. I became a multimillionaire. I'm an investor. All the things. I'm a business owner, multiple business owner. So I have a financial background, financial knowledge. I'm a master's of business administration. So all these things, but I can't quite make sense of everything that's going on other than to say it's probably, hopefully, a hardcore negotiating strategy to try to get these deals. And presidents want to leave a legacy and want to do things like, if he could say he normalized global trade in favor of the United States and took away a lot of these different disadvantages that we had in global trade. But the other thing is, right, the way they looked at all of this is to say that there's deficits. So they looked at these deficits. So we're a country, United States is a country that spends money. We love to spend money. We're a consumer-based economy. We're, hyper consumerism. We spend, we get, we spend. That's what we do. Like we buy stuff, we love imported stuff. And on the other side of that, we have businesses that love to buy supplies and stuff and labor and all that stuff for cheap in other countries. So we spend in these other countries. So just because, so we're the one of the richest, probably the richest country in the world, right? Outside, I think Monaco and a couple of others, but we're up there, and we're definitely the country that spends the most. So we can't expect countries like Vietnam and Taiwan and countries that aren't as consumer driven, aren't as materialistic as we are, um, to spend to match us. And what are we expecting them to buy? U.S. goods in equal amounts as we're buying their goods? Like we're never gonna, as the richest, one of the richest countries and the biggest spending country, we're never gonna be equal in terms of the amount that we export, right? So we're always gonna import more than we export because they're just not buying American goods like that. And because a lot of things that people buy typically on a day-to-day basis are made elsewhere and not necessarily made in the United States. So you can't really expect to have a balanced uh, trade deficit every year. Like it's just like almost impossible. It doesn't make sense rationally. It just doesn't make sense. So we're kind of penalizing a lot of countries for our desire to buy their goods, and then we're putting a tax, on those imported goods that are shipped into the country. Which, if you're a business owner, right? If you're buying, $100 worth of coffee, and now there's a 25% tariff on that, and now so as the business owner, you're buying it, it's coming in, it's being taxed at the border, right? Somebody's paying that tax, right? It's probably not you. The person selling it to you, if they have to pay that tax when they sell it to you, they're going to charge you 125, right? So when you get that, you're going to have to pay 125. So what do? You're not going to dig into your margins. Your margins are probably not 25% anyway. Like most companies don't have 25% margins, right? You literally can't afford to sell that anymore for $100. So yeah, what are you going to do? You're going to sell it for 125 now. You're going to pass that amount on to the consumer. Now, I don't want to get political at all with this. I'm actually an independent. I like certain things about both parties, and I dislike certain things about both parties. But I will say that doesn't the expectation that foreign countries are going to eat that charge and just pay a tax, for selling us their stuff, and for us importing that stuff in, is just doesn't make sense. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So what's going to end up happening is the consumer is going to have to pay for that, which is going to raise prices and inflation and all that stuff. So hopefully we can get to a resolution on all this before. And we're in a place right now. The economy is kind of fragile, right? So for us to uh, have inflation start increasing again, prices were already high. I mean, inflation leveled off, but that doesn't mean prices went down. Inflation just kind of leveled off and stopped going up as much, right? So we have inflation under control, but prices haven't really gone back down to where they were post COVID or whatever it might be. So, now if you start adding on these tariffs and these taxes and increasing prices again, and then you're talking about trade wars where they're like, China just announced, I think it was 34% tariffs on U.S. goods as well. So it's going to be passed on to the consumer, and it's going to create a mess. And if we let this go for many months, then we're definitely it's going to push us into a recession. And companies are ready. Like I have insider contacts at JP Morgan Chase. They're already laying off people. And one of the bad signs is usually when they lay people off, it's the bottom 10% of performers, right? They will lay off. They're laying off people that were high performers just in departments, just letting the high performers go too. So that's always a terrible sign. And that's a sign that they see what's coming, right? So banks, you know, are some of the best finance and economists, people out there in the world, and they see what's coming. So that to me, that's a signal for them to be doing that. They see bad things coming. So these are all kind of tea leaves as to what's going to come. Not to mention, the stock market. We've lost, I think I read somewhere $9 trillion worth of value since we peaked, since the top. I think the S&P at this point has pulled back 17% from its highs, and companies like Apple are getting killed. They're taking out these big companies, taking them in the back, taking them out to the woodshed. And you know, the good news is it will pass. It's going to create opportunities for us. Um, I mean, we do well even in a recession, right? Online marketers do well even in a recession. In fact, 2020, 2021 during the pandemic were some of my best years in business. I hate to say that. I feel bad saying that, but that, especially with everybody turning to online, everybody was at home, everybody was online, more people on webinars, more people are buying stuff online, you know, working from home, looking for opportunities to work from home, uncertain about the future. So whenever people are uncertain about the future, they look for other opportunities. And just like with this video, the title of this video, I was saying, talking about this current trends, when you could tap into what's at the top of people's minds, it always creates attention, right? So attention creates money. The more attention you can get, the more people you can get to see offers. The more people you can get to see offers, the more money we tend to make, whether you have your own offers or whether you're an affiliate. So just think about that in terms of, is it going to create more people looking at offers or less people looking at offers? More people, especially when you can tap into what's on the top of their mind and help them. Genuinely try to help people with their problems. So that's good news. That's a silver lining if you follow me and if you do online marketing and if you are in some of my programs or go to WebinarCon or do webinars or promote any type of products online. I have services online. These are all good things. We're going to be in demand the worse the economy does, believe it or not. It's like an inverse type of relationship. When everybody has a job, less people are looking for opportunities because they're good, they're paid. But when people start worrying and people start looking for other alternatives, then we tend to do well online. And when people are home, when more people are home, able to look online and look at offers, we tend to do well. So that's one good thing. The other good thing is ad costs are probably going to drop at some point, because when companies start cutting back, a lot of them start cutting back their advertising budget, or at least not scaling their expenses the way that they would have. So it creates opportunities for us to get cheap traffic and make extra money. So these are some of the things that we can look forward to. I really thought 2025 was going to be a good year for business. Republicans are in; they're typically pro-business, but what they're doing, and this is not pro-business. I mean, they're typically uh, pro just money, right? Pro getting money. But if you think about what's happening, they're laying off, they're cutting back. There's a lot of extra, waste and whatnot with government spending, but I don't think these folks thought that they would just come in and start laying off people at the government level, government jobs. I thought they were going to find spending outside of employment, spending that the things that we were spending too much on, or wasteful spending. But they laid off a lot of people. Like DC is struggling right now, like government jobs, and this is going to have an impact on the economy also. So as you can see, I don't agree with a lot of stuff that's going on, but a lot of it is above my pay grade, and hopefully there is a plan that I'm not aware of, a higher purpose for all of this stuff that's going on. and hopefully, everything's going to work out for the best. As I said, there's still no shortage of money out there. It creates opportunity, and sometimes times like this is the motivation, gives you the motivation that you need to finally do something. Because when you're comfortable, right, things don't tend to get done. When you need to, you put your back against the wall. Amazing things can happen. So this is a time to get active, right? This is a time to think about the future. This is a time to get motivated. This is a time to, whatever project or whatever opportunity you see that you were thinking about getting involved in, get involved in it, jump onto it. And before things hit the fan, it hasn't truly hit the fan yet. We haven't started seeing the job cuts and all the different things. We haven't seen the economy officially go into a recession, but all of that trillions of dollars of value of net worth that people have is being thrown out the window right now. Well, not thrown out the window, but being lost right now because of these market sell-offs and because of all this stuff. The other thing that's good is interest rates are likely to come down. They have been coming down. They're likely to go down further. So, if you're looking to buy a house or looking to, do anything real estate related, buy an investment property, it's a time to do that as well. As rates start coming down, more properties are going to start coming on the market. People are going to need the money. Investors are going to start selling off their properties. They need the cash. So there's a lot of opportunities are going to come up. So it was a few things I wanted to talk about, just financial stuff. Uh, the first thing was, one of the things that I did really well um, in the 2010s was when I started making good money. I didn't automatically, just because my income increased, I didn't increase my expenses. Most people, they get a new job or the business is doing well. Let's right away, okay, we're expecting 10,000 next month. Okay, then our expenses could be 10,000. No, like I deferred a lot of spending, and just was able to use that money and stack it up and create. And the plan was to take that money and make that money make additional money, just like rich dad, poor dad. My plan was to buy enough real estate where I never had to work again, right? So all the money I would get, I didn't even consider it spending money. It went into a separate account. So I had an account that was just deposits only. I never withdrew from that account. If I didn't have money in my other accounts, I just didn't have money. I'll find a way to make more money, but I would never touch these accounts, these deposit only accounts, because those were the accounts I was going to use for down payments, for investments, for letting the money compound, for wealth building, right? So like literally, if I didn't have money in this account, I would not touch my deposit only account. I would create opportunity. I would create a product. I would do webinars. I'll do a promotion, anything but to touch this deposit only account. Right. So fortunately, I don't have to, worry about that stuff because what I did actually worked out. Like, we make enough money from real estate now. I mean, we did over $500,000 in rents collected last year to, I don't never have to work again. Like literally, I'm 50 years old and we have enough money coming in from the real estate, and it increases every year, right? So rents go up, the cash flow comes in, and it increases. So deposit only account, think long term with that. That was one of the things that really worked for me. Um, Having a respect for compounding, right? Compounding, they say, is like the eighth wonder of the world. It's like, look at an example like 10,000 could turn into 100,000 if you just let it compound. But if you take money out, if you withdraw any of that amount, it affects the entire equation. It literally could be the difference between that 10,000 turning into 100,000 or the 10,000 only turning into 48,000, if you withdrew some of the money along the way. So just let it only add to it, let it compound, whether it be, like we're going to get a huge opportunity to buy stock. So those are the other thing I want to talk about is like seizing opportunities when they come up like this. First, having some capital saved up to use when these opportunities come up. So think about it that way. Don't spend all your money. Have some money set aside for when opportunities like this comes up. When good companies, the good companies like Netflix and Meta and Google and Microsoft and Apple and all of the top companies, Berkshire Hathaway, and all the stuff. Look at the stuff that you buy every day. Look at the stuff that you actually use. Home Depot. You know, when they start selling those off, when they just throw the baby out with the bathwater and just indiscriminately, just people just need capital to start selling it off just to get capital. When they go down like 30-40%, those are opportunities, because when things bounce back, you could double or triple your money with those type of opportunities historically, and it works that way. So the US isn't going anywhere. The US is still going to be a global superpower, long after Trump is gone, hopefully. And these companies aren't going at it. Nvidia, like, AI is the future. Look at the AI related companies, AMD and Palantir and all these different companies are going to it's still, technology is still going to be technology. It's going to do what it does. I mean, look at McDonald's, Walmart. These companies aren't going anywhere. People are still going to buy stuff. People are still going to live their life. People are still going to travel. If stocks that related to like a recession, if Delta Airlines probably would sell off in a recession, but people are still going to fly when the recession's over, even during the recession. So if you can catch that at a crazy low price, Norwegian cruise lines and different places like that, those are the type of stocks that get killed. But you know, it's not the time to with stocks. It's not the time to invest in stuff that's speculative, right? Because you can get amazing returns with the highest quality companies. So that's the thing with real estate. Keeping some money for down payments. Like, if this might be a good time to catch some foreclosures or to find some distressed situations with people needing to sell. Find people that a lot of times during recessions, divorces happen. I hate to say that, and then when divorces happen, people have to split up that property and sell it, and so a lot of properties come on the market, and or foreclosures or short sales or just situations where people have to sell. Those are opportunities, right? And just having an eye for it and knowing, like, okay, seeing the future, like, okay, 5 years from now, this investment's going to be worth a lot of money. That's how you get rich, and that's how I did it. So it's a combination of seizing opportunities to earn extra money, and then seizing opportunities to invest that money, let it compound, let it grow. You know, that's how you never have to worry about money again. So the other thing I wanted to talk about um, was staying motivated, staying positive. Um, Everything happens for a reason. Find a way, use it as motivation. There's no shortage of ways to make money right now. Like, with, for instance, Chat GPT just released an image maker, and there's ways you could just go on Facebook, do a search for people looking for logos, take whatever their website is about, put it in Chat GPT. Hey, give me a logo for this, and then message them like, "Hey, I created a logo for you. Let me know if you like it or if you need something else." And people will pay you for simple logos. Could be $100, could be $200 or whatever. But you do that enough times a day, and $200 a day, $6,000 at the end of the month. Like, there's really no excuse for not having money for your bills and all that type of stuff. But it's just a matter of getting creative, seeing what's working out there, talking to people, and using this all as motivation to understand that when you have a job, your salary is that job's expense. And when stuff hits the fan, what do people do? They cut their expenses, right? So jobs seem safe, but until you realize that you're someone else's expenses. So especially if you have a job that's not generating money for other people. So that's just the way it is. It's a lot safer to be able to learn how and be able to create your own income. Right. This is what you need to learn how to do. And it's a lot, it seems risky, but it's a lot less risky because you control it. You have the power over it. Like being able to create a group of people that are interested in a certain topic and use news headlines and use what they're thinking about to attract them into your group, and then give genuine value to them, and then say, listen, if you really want my help with this, join my premium group or buy my course, or I'll coach you on this thing, or I'll consult you, or join this mastermind group. People are doing that all the time, selling value, helping people with their problems, helping people get clarity, and it's just easy money out there. The other thing is there's going to be all type of e-commerce opportunities, right? Say if tariffs really happen, if they're charging 25%, 40%, 70%, some of these tariffs was like 90%. I think it was it Vietnam had a 90% tariff, and I think Taiwan had 64%, or I might have that backwards. And it's just crazy. Like, so if you were able to, go right now and buy a bunch of products, it's going to be more expensive, when these things kick in, and then you could resell it uh, for cheaper than the market value, because the price is going to go up. So if iPhones go to $3,500 for an iPhone, if you bought a bunch of them ahead of time and flipped them for 2,700 for 3,000. You know what I mean? Like, there's opportunities that come up. It creates like arbitrage opportunities if you're able to get stuff, and then the current market value all of a sudden goes up because of these tariffs. You got to be a hustler, right? I mean, hustler in a good sense, right? Because if you think about that example, right? That example of being a hustler, seeing what's happening, seeing that the price of iPhones are likely to go up. I don't know what they cost. Say they're $2,000 now, and they go up to $3,000, right? You get a bunch of them at a 2,000 low price, and it's just it could be any example like that. But now things change, and people can't get them for 2,000. Now they cost 3,000 because of these tariffs. But you bought them at 2,000. Now you're selling them for 2,800, right? It's a win-win, right? You're giving it to people for $200 less than they would have gotten, so they're happy to get a deal, and you're making $800 profit off each one. So there's all type of opportunities like that are going to come up, and you just have to have an eye for it, and um, think ahead of time, and understand how to create win-win offers, how to create value, how to sell value. So I'll just end it here, but hopefully you got something good from this, and hopefully you see that this is a promising time, especially if you're an entrepreneur, if you follow folks like me, if you see opportunities. This is a good time for us. So stay positive, keep your head up. This will pass, and everything's going to be all right. And I wish you the best. Talk to you soon. Take care.